What's good? Hey, he is.
Hey,
What's up, son?
my man with that Nas.
Yo, did you need a latte or anything? You know what I'm saying?
Yo, you snapped with that video, man. I got so hyped once I saw that.
Yeah, man. I had to keep with the tradition. You know what I'm saying? I had to get the butter water. You know what I'm
Butter
saying?
water.
Yes, as you can see, butter water is like nothing to play with. Let me see if I can get this out of
You gotta copyright that.
here. I got to, man. I want you to see what's in it. Yeah, there we go. So you got 5 shots in there, and then the secret ingredient is yerba mate.
Hey, yo, listen, Achille, I got two things to say, man. First off, is I broke out the big one for you. This is a chalice that I only use for special occasions. This was gifted to me by a man many years ago. I break it out for special occasions. I had to break it out for you. The second thing I'll say is, I was perplexed about what to wear today because everyone that has been here for What a Week has brought their own flavor and style. And at first I was like, yo, let me rock a suit. I got a nice suit, and then I was like, nah, let me wear just like a white button up and a tie. And then I said, you know what? What was great about everyone who came up here with you is that they were just themselves.
Exactly.
So let me just be me,
Exactly. And I got my merch on, you know what I'm saying?
I peeped that.
You know
I
what I'm
peeped
saying?
that.
We here. I was like, I'm gonna get some merch because
Yeah.
he always has on the Black Buck merch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Yeah, man. Look, let me see. Look like the folk are pulling in, man. Well,
Yo, how was your birthday yesterday?
it was a blessing, man. This whole week has been a blessing. I've been thanking her all week, but I want to thank my wife again for the
Hell yeah.
suggestion, and all the work she's been doing. She made the Starbucks apron.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
So you both are talented.
Yeah, man, she's cold, man. She's
Wow.
cold. So yeah, man. And I got like buku books, you know what I'm saying, from all the folk that been tuning in and showing love.
Yeah.
And some really cool gifts, of course, from the family, man. So
Hell yeah.
it's been a blessing, man. Maybe What a Week will be back next year. Who knows?
I hope so, man. I mean, it's been and I mentioned this before in something I wrote when I was talking about our event and the events you're doing, but it's been a real gift to us and just the literary community. I have never seen anything like this before in terms of publishing or this industry, aside from a conference or a festival. But you went ahead, and I know Crystal's done actually her own version of something like this with bringing people up. So shout out to Crystal and the work that she does. But it's just been incredible to not just see you say, all right, I got some some authors coming up here, but I'm going to do ill promo. It's going to be fun. It's going to be innovative, and the rigor of the commentary and the conversations is going to be high. So, just shout out to you, brother, and happy birthday and congrats.
Thank you, man. It means the world to me, like to have all of y'all on, man. It's been great, and I think I had like the perfect people. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you read books because of what you want to see in yourself or what you want to have revealed about yourself, or things that you see. And so as I read all of y'all's books, I saw little parts about, I saw parts of myself and parts of myself was revealed. So yeah, man, it's been a blessing, man.
I'm also not going to lie, man. You got me out here thinking that I got to read my book a second time. Like, I mean, I read my book like 10 or 11 times, like throughout the process and everything, but I haven't read it front to back in a minute. And I was like, yo, I got to come prepared for Achille because he has been bringing the heat with everyone.
Yeah, man. And you have been no different. What I just do with that suck. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Just put the finishing touches on here again. Literally like 10 minutes before. Like, son,
son.
Like this has been a marathon. Like, and I pulled it off. Right. I gotta read the Billie Holiday joint. I got like what 1 day for that, but I
Word.
mean, I've been doing it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Are you a quick reader?
Yeah, I timed myself when I was younger. I can get about 60 to 70 pages done
Yeah.
in an hour.
Mm.
Um, the only
That's
thing that,
quick.
yeah, the only thing that kind of slows me down. I'll tell you something, I'm weird as hell, right? So
Mm.
when I was younger, they used to have these commercials about those speed readers. You know, them folks that just be,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And, because my mom wouldn't give me the money to give away, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
started like piecing together what they are doing. Um, and a piece of what I found out is like they are basically training themselves to get at the root of what each page says very
Mm.
quickly. So I took some of that out and kind of made my own version of it.
Yeah.
But when she got the idea, it was really easy because that's my normal pace, about 60 to 70 an hour. So it was really easy to kind of do it because I had a little time.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's what's up, man. It sounds like you're eating those books, man. It's hard for me to read right now just because, not a lot of time, or even if I do have the time, then I'm just trying to sort of like relax and zone out. And I understand that there are books that can help you do that, but when I consume any piece of literature, especially now, it's rarely passively.
yeah,
It's active, and I'm alternating between trying to enjoy the story and then also break it down and understand how it was written and why it was written in a certain way, which
yeah,
I know is what you do. your
yeah,
your
yeah,
Achilles scholarship.
yeah. Man, I appreciate it, man. So let me introduce you, man. If you're on here and you don't know, this is Mateo Askaripour.
Let's get it.
All right, all right.
Yeah,
Stop playing with me.
yeah,
The author of the New York Times bestseller, right?
yeah,
Black
yeah.
Buck. You know what I'm saying? And this is it here. And as you can see, it's back there. You know how I do. You never know, man. You got to have buku copies. You know what I'm saying? You never know what you might have to do. You know what I'm
Appreciate that,
saying?
brother. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man. And so we're gonna chat it up. We're gonna talk about Black Buck, but also some other things and some other things through things that I saw in Black Buck.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, we're gonna rock and roll. Um, so the first, well, this is I guess kind of a question,
Hmm.
but kind of like me giving you some flowers. I wanted to like commend you on how you've been like a crusader for Black bookstagrammers, man. Like ever since I became aware of you in this space, it's been all love. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? All love, you trying to help us map out different ways to like either monetize or make this better in general.
Hmm.
Right. And then also for what you do for Black creatives. Like I was on like what is it called? Reading Lit with you, and you were talking to like somebody who was working on a manuscript
Yeah.
that it sounded like you had already kind of at least read some of it or
Yeah, I read his
um,
query. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you were kind of blessing him with some ideas and ways that it can get better. Um, and you've been urging me along as well. Um, and that's been transformative and welcomed, man. Um, and
It's
as I
it's my
mentioned,
pleasure. It's my pleasure, man, to be honest, right? And like to keep it real, when I started getting into Bookstagram and engaging with all of you and Black Bookstagram, I quickly understood that this was the funnest, most interesting, and in many ways the most innovative portion of the literary industry. To be honest, for me at least, and in terms of my energy, so it doesn't take work out of me to interact or show love because it just feels so natural and seamless. And also, so many people have shown love to me from Bookstagram and Black Bookstagram. And it's not on some transaction like you rub my back, I rub yours. It doesn't matter if someone's even, messing with the book. I'm not saying these Black Bookstagrammers and these people who didn't mess with the book, get out of here. It's just what everyone is doing. It's people reading books, loving literature, and spreading that to so many other people online, and I'm sure after COVID in person as well.
yeah,
So
man.
it's just been an honor, brother, and so thank you for what you said too, and thank you for everyone who's here.
Yeah, man. So, and one of the aspects that I have been talking about that I wanted to make this week a little bit like would be like a makeshift workshop for
Wow.
myself, right? which is one reason why I'm trying to like get like step the rigor up so much to where I can like learn something about
Mm.
what it means to be a writer and how writers think. And I know you went to the Rhode Island Writers Colony,
Colony, yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? And I
yeah.
wanted to know what that did for you craft wise and what it is still doing for you relationship wise.
I am so happy that you asked because, like, sometimes I feel like when I talk about it, like in an interview, someone might bring it up a little bit or not at all, and then I'll just try to like get it in there because
Yeah.
it has been so integral to me being here and my journey as a writer and me as a literary citizen. Um, so when I was writing Black Book, first draft, and second draft, I was dolo, in terms of my own literary community, just by myself. I had reached out to different writers and most of them didn't respond and they didn't have to. I get it.
Yeah.
I wasn't entitled to their time. Some did here and there to give me a word of encouragement. Viet Ten Nguyen from The Sympathizer. I found his email and I emailed him. And this was like, I don't know, a couple months after he'd won the Pulitzer. And I was like, yo, man, can you just give me some words of advice? Can we Skype? I don't know why I said Skype. I was like, can we Skype, man? And he hit me back and he's like, yo, I don't even have time for my family, but the road to publishing is long and hard, even for me still. So press on. Getting that response meant so much to me. So what I'm getting at, Achille, is that I was a community of one. I was dolo in my parents' crib in the room that I had grown up in, and it had been converted into like a library of sorts for my mother's cookbooks. There was no longer a bed, there was a futon because my family never thought I was going to move back home. They're like,
Yeah.
yo, he's in Manhattan, in the world of startups. And I was living in Brooklyn before I moved back home at this point in my life. But my family, just like my friends, were like, oh, he's the one. He's going to be, doing all of these things in these worlds. So when I left that job, I had to find out who I was. And I went back home and then I began writing. And flash forward a couple of years, I'm writing Black Book. I'm by myself. I'm like, all right, this is just going to be on me. I don't have a lot of writers giving me time or showing me love, whatever. Maybe I'm too this, that, or the other for them. Maybe I'm a little bit too loud or too forthright or whatever, or even too sincere. And they're like, who is this? And why does he want my time? So I finished the first draft and I'm working on the second draft. And I don't remember exactly when. This could have been June when I applied. I don't exactly remember. I saw the Rhode Island Writers Colony. I think I found out about it through social media. I'm not sure if it was through Jason Reynolds or someone else. And I said, let me not just copy and paste something that I'd written before in terms of an application or an artist statement. Let me take some time. So me taking the time was really just like an hour,
Yeah.
crafting stuff up and then revising it. And when I went to go send the application in, I saw that the application window was closed. I was like, hold up. There definitely were a couple days left to
Yeah.
apply. But let me not come at anyone. So I emailed John Stevenson, who is the brother of Brooke Stevenson, who had founded the colony. And Brooke, unfortunately, passed. He was a literary juggernaut, man. And he was working on an anthology that ended up coming out later called Everyday People. So John, I said, yo, I don't know if I missed the deadline or what, but could I still apply? And he's like, yeah, no, you could apply. So I applied and I got into it and I went to Rhode Island. And I don't want to go too much into it because we could spend hours talking about it, but I roll up, I think I took a bus to Rhode Island. John picks me up and he's like, yo, we're waiting for another woman named Lena. And he said, Jason's coming tomorrow. And I was like, what do you mean Jason's coming? He said, Jason Reynolds, he's the one who accepted you. And I said, Jason Reynolds read my work?
Yeah.
And I had run into Jason, in the past. And I don't know if he knew who I was. Probably not because he knows so many people and he does so much. But I said, Jason read my work? He said, yeah, Jason's going to be here too. I said, what? And then when Lena came, Lena Hamilton, incredible poet. For anyone who attended my first event, she was there. I get out the car and I go to give her a little handshake. And she looks at my hand. She's like, what are you doing? And she hugs me. She's like, what are you doing? And that started to re-engineer my mind from being this lone wolf writer and knowing that there was community and a family for me, even though I didn't know I needed it. Those 2 weeks were incredible. Jason gave me so much game. I spent time with Katie Nicorette, she writes speculative and fantasy and sci-fi. Carla Dupree, who runs City Lit Festival in I believe Baltimore. Lena Hamilton. Jason was just giving me gem after gem after gem. And the one thing he said that really changed my perspective on everything, because I was writing the book that I wanted at this time, but of course I still wanted an agent. And he said, Mateo, any agent would be lucky to have your work.
Yeah.
I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, we're always, writers are being made to seem like we would be lucky to get an agent. He said, forget that. Any agent would be lucky to have your work. So Achille, that's just a long way of saying that it transformed me. 5 minutes before I got on this live, I'm talking with my homie Candace.
Yeah.
From her book.
I was just going to say, yeah. I think
exactly.
she was,
I got it up there. Everybody looking, Candace, me, Irvin Weathersby. These are people who are my writing confidants, and I can go to at any time, and I'm just eternally grateful for them.
Yeah. If you see me doing this, that's me taking notes. Right. That's what I'm doing. But the Lena, you had her read too at that event, didn't you?
Yeah, for every one of my main 3 tour events, I had a poet or someone spit a verse.
Yeah. She had them bars. I remember it. I was like, yo, I need to get hip to whoever this is. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Thank you for asking that, man. I just love being able to talk about that. That's my family right there.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ramon. I see Ramon up in here too. Ramon's from there too.
Yeah, man. I was that's something I'm interested in terms of just like I said, workshops in general. And like what they do and what they kind of like give you, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like as you move along. And Disha talks about like still taking workshops, on various different things. She took one on satire, I think with Rion is one that she mentioned with me. Rion. Yeah. So yeah, man. I think I got Rion right. Yep. The world doesn't require you right there.
Rion's the homie. He gave me a blurb. What I also want to say is the colony is for people of color. Anyone in here who wants to write, who writes poetry, you're a playwright, you write fiction, nonfiction, please look into applying. The second thing I'm going to say is, past the pandemic, when we can gather in person again, you are in a town called Warren, Rhode Island. Warren, Rhode Island is like 98.6% white.
Yeah.
So when we're in there, we go to the Main Street Cafe and people are like, are you with the colony? You're like, what gave it away? They just know when we're there in full force. They love us there. You do a reading. That was where I did my first reading ever. It was in Providence, Rhode Island, a little out of Warren. And there was a man who came up to me and he's like, yo, where can I buy your book? And I was like, what do you mean, where can you buy my book? He's like, yo, where can I get it? I was like, yo, I'm on my 2nd draft. What are you talking about? And he's like, this book is going to be published one day. So that gave me just a ton of confidence, man. That was necessary.
Yeah, man. That's what's up, man. Okay. So my first book question, you literally wrote it for me, right? And it goes a little bit like this. You gave me the perfect setup and everything. There was a certain knowledge imparted to the people who worked with their hands and built the game from the ground up. Like our parents, their parents, and their parents, going back to wherever we come from. And now it's up to us to fix the game and help others, like you, Diego, to learn how to do the same to get ahead. And then it says, so what were you saying? I want to know, because I know who you are and what you do. I want to know what you were saying in that quote to your readers.
Saying a lot. And it's funny because I've received some emails or comments from people who obviously are upset or uncomfortable by the fact that I say I wrote this with Black people in mind. Not saying that I only want Black people to read it, but that I had Black people in mind as I wrote it. There are people who push back and say, what do you mean? Don't you want everyone to buy this book? Don't you want this, that, and the other? And then there are people who say, I feel like, I was peeking into a world that wasn't meant for me when I read this book, but it was so valuable. And I say, I'm happy that you read it for sure. In that scene in the book, you have an Argentinian, right? Because the Happy Campers is so much of it's a rainbow coalition. And
Yeah,
this
it's
is
for people of color. Yeah.
yes, this is and that was intentional, just in the same way that Darren writing this book for Black people was intentional. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
2 years after he'd begun the Happy Campers, and it's not like he said F everyone else, but he was thinking about how he can narrow his aim and have the biggest impact through writing this book. Darren being the author, because this is, you know, a form of metafiction. So when that young man Diego says, "Look at the problems we're having with all these other people outside of the Happy Campers because we didn't let white people in. We should have just let white people in." I had a woman email me and say, "Mateo, it was a very small part, but when Frodo asked if he could join the Happy Campers and Darren said no, I thought that that was showing how much further we have to go for peace and to join together."
Yeah.
And I said, you know, respectfully, and I respond. People know I respond to if people aren't coming on some clown shit, I respond for the most part. And I loved her read. Her analysis was great, and she also brought this point up. And I don't exactly remember her name, but I said, listen, you know, there is value in us, people of color, or just Black people, creating spaces for us and by us. There is value in that, in feeling safe, in feeling like you don't have to watch your back. Frodo, while being cool for the most part, was an average white man. He got like 6 layups, and then he got into someone, that startup, where Darren was being put through the ringer. Frodo never realized his privilege. So while Frodo was cool for the most part, he was still lacking sight in so many ways. So when I wrote that, I was saying that, and this is sort of like Robert's talking about blood memory.
Yeah.
That we who come from people who literally built these lands, right? And I'm talking about in this hemisphere, in parts of Europe, wherever we were transported, right? Because I don't think my ancestors were picking cotton in Jamaica. They were definitely slicing cane.
It was slicing
right?
that cane, yeah.
There is knowledge that is imparted on us who had to build these nations and whose nations were built on our backs and through our hands. It's somewhat of a mixed metaphor, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that it is our duty to take this knowledge and work against the system, because the system is not broken. The system is working as it's intended. You know what I'm saying?
Working. I tell my students that all the time.
Right? To work against this system to help us rise up. And this doesn't mean to emulate white people, but rise up in whatever ways we feel like will benefit ourselves and our communities, and help us, you know, attain generational wealth, to help us attain, you know, necessary education, to help us just feel free and happy without having to worry and have all this anxiety all the time. So that's what I was saying with that part.
Absolutely. Can you guys hear Mateo well? I just want to make sure. You went a little fuzzy, but I can still hear you just fine.
You got me?
Hey, I can still hear you just fine. I know it's going to clear back up for me. I just wanted to make sure they could see you and hear you good too. Y'all let me know. So, you just hit on something that I was planning on asking you about. Anyway, perfectly. But Duchess and Frodo.
Yeah.
Duchess and Frodo have a form of racial nepotism going on, right? Like you said, Frodo got buku layups, and Duchess literally got trained by Clyde prior to coming in. And that was something I did not notice on my first read.
Really?
And I did not. I was like, hold the hell up. How I missed this?
I'm so happy you read it the second time, man, because there's so much going on. So you telling me you didn't peep it that first time is just making me think what other people are missing from that first read. I think they're getting the feelings and the gist of it, right? But my bad, though. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Like, I think that is, I mean, that is a like a byproduct of, I think I mentioned it, like this torrential nature of the narrative, right? Like, it is, you are in the story, right? In a way that I don't know, man, it's hard to look away, man. Like, that's literally why on my first read, I was like, man, fuck these tabs, dog. I gotta go. I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? Because I was in it. And I think that's an interesting thing to kind of like look at, because I wonder, like you said, how many people miss things because of them like being so engrossed,
Yeah.
which is, crazy because you should see it. But yeah. Um, and so she calls in those favors, and I wonder, how does racial nepotism not only prove the need for Darren to create these happy campers, but also the need for connections and networks to be built among people of color in general.
Yeah. I mean, you know how many people I know who just get a job from hitting up a friend, or someone they went to college with, or a family friend. When I hear these types of things, and especially, years ago when I was very much so getting into the world of business, and
Hmm.
I would see this happen, I'm like, damn, is this real? Like, I thought that this was just in movies, or it was something abstract that people spoke about.
Yeah.
Because for me in my life, it was rare, if ever, for me to get on or get an opportunity from someone that I knew. Not to say that the people I knew weren't intelligent or empathetic or capable, but they weren't in those types of places.
Yeah.
So when I started to see that, I was like, damn, it's really that easy to just know someone. Um, so where I am now, and where I was while I was writing the book, is I wanted to highlight the fact that so many people are given opportunities, or people are taking bets on them, not because of any innate talent, but just because of who they know. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's what we should do in our communities, but I also wouldn't be opposed to it, shit, if other people are doing it. But I also think that there still needs to be quality,
Yeah.
and that there can be quality assurance performed in some ways, not through vetting people like, oh, is this person worthy of an opportunity, but taking that next step and saying, let me help this person be ready for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Let me give them the tools. So I'm not just sliding them this intro or anything, but I'm making sure that they're prepared. Because you know how easy it would be where I am now, to a certain extent. I'm not exactly in the same game as I was, but I could definitely make intros for people to become entry-level salespeople, to friends who are still managing them, right?
Yeah.
All I got to do is send an email or say, look at this person or the other if they come to me. What makes more sense, though, is for me to say, hey, let's have a conversation. Let me give you some tips and tricks, and let me make sure that you're also ready to navigate this environment where you might be one of the few, if not the only people. Because being good at sales or being good at any portion of your job doesn't mean all that much if you have to constantly navigate yourself and who you are and negotiate those parts of yourselves in this greater environment. I also don't want to get it messed up, right? We see in the book, Jason never goes and works for a white-owned company.
Yeah.
That is not the only way. That
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
have to infiltrate these different spaces where we don't see people like us. That's one way where you can go and get the tools. Then if you have the desire to go create your own spaces, not everyone has that desire. There are some people, I'm sure, black folk who want to get into sales, and then in 5, 6, 7 years are making $300,000.
Mm.
And they're just good and they can take care of their families. It's not on me to say what you got to do and what you don't got to do, right? But then
Yeah.
there are other people who say, nah, I'm going to circumvent that whole world, and I'm either going to create my own thing from the jump because I see all these other people doing it. It's going to be hard for me to get venture capital funding, but I'm just going to create it on my own. Or I'm going to go work for a black company or a company owned by an indigenous or person of color. So there's not just one way, but the network, there's power in people. And this is making me think now of Judas and the Black Messiah, right? That's what Chairman Fred Hampton was saying. Wherever there are people, there's power.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to hit home, man.
Yeah. Look, man, I am trying to. I was telling Reggie, man, that there seems to be this wealth of knowledge that you have,
Mm.
uh, which I'm gonna get to it, but I'm wondering, like, what kinds of books did you read to inform the types of things that you're doing in this book? And aside from literally that conversation, I watched you and Robert
Yeah.
talk, and he was saying how people are unaware of just how much they may or may not have seen, right,
Mm.
in reading this book, and he suggested a reread in that event. But I got something that'll give me a little bit more of that already planned, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Let's see.
Well, let me address that first portion.
Go ahead.
It's tough because it didn't all just come from me, right? I mean, I lived it
Hmm.
and I saw it inside and outside of the workplace, what it's like to be the only one or one of the few in any of these spaces, especially when I was growing up and I was playing sports where I was like the only black kid on the soccer team, or I was the only black kid in an honors class or so forth. So a lot of it was embedded in my DNA. But I was and am continually inspired by so many people. One of them is James Baldwin. When I
Yeah.
was in college, I was reading Another Country, and I believe in college I also read Go Tell It on the Mountain. And I remember, and I'm being a little bit careful now. I remember reading James Baldwin,
Hmm.
and for a week, not like really not being able to look at white people the same.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm being careful now because um, all white people have privilege for sure, but people are people, and there are those of us that have certain predilections, and those of us who don't, and so forth. Right? That's what I'm trying to say here. I'm not
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
say
yeah.
that I am inherently biased in any way, but after reading James Baldwin, I would be so angry.
Yeah,
I'd be so upset
yeah.
that I couldn't read him all the time. So when I'm writing Black Buck, subconsciously, I just remember that feeling. Or Toni Morrison, or at that time when I was writing Black Buck, I was reading Black Docker by Usman Semben, and just so many books. It's just so hard to say at this point. And I wanted to create those feelings in my readers as well. So that's what helped me a lot in terms of sales knowledge and business knowledge. I got that on the job. I got that from sink or swim. I got that from being in an environment that was more intense than what I've rendered on the page. Where I
Hmm.
was at least 5 times more intense. And I'm
Yeah,
not saying that people were dropping buckets of white paint on black people. That's not what it was. But it was fear-based. There was a big work hard, play hard mentality. It was militant to a certain extent, and you had to be on point. And I can't even see the comments anymore
look.
because when I went off Wi-Fi. But yeah,
You can't see. I'm about to tell you when I see something good.
yeah,
Reggie must have saw me like I couldn't get the last book you had said, Black Dockery.
Black
Um,
Docker.
yeah, Black Docker. And like I was like, dang it. And my Google Doc had went off. And so he put it in the comments. He said Black Docker Achilles.
Yeah, so that's not funny. He already knows. That's why you guys are in sync. You just
Yeah,
know.
man.
I got a lot of the sales knowledge and the business knowledge just on the job. I also got 3 older brothers. I got one
Mm.
younger brother, and all of my brothers do different things and are very dedicated to their craft. So I've been able to see it, firsthand. What it's been like for them to navigate through their lives in art, in business, or just trying to survive. My three
Yeah,
older brothers were wilding out when I was growing up.
yeah, yeah,
Wilding
yeah.
out. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Dope, man. Look, that that is so important, I think, to at least the type of books that I want to read. And also, let me say this to y'all: drop your questions in the question box. I forgot to mention that. If you got questions, drop them in the question box, and we're gonna get to them. But that's a part of like what I've been like studying, like how to um, give a fictional piece those parts of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it can that it can reach more people, right? Like I talked about that with something that me and you are working on, and then
Mm-hmm.
also I think that just speaks to like what you were talking about because that rage um, doesn't it sometimes will get in the way of you trying to like be practical and get things done because you're so like you know what I'm
Bro,
saying.
that's not my default. It's also
Yeah,
not my default, and I don't write angry. I don't
yeah,
write. I mean, maybe I write happy. I don't really think too much about the emotions while I'm in the act because I'm in the act. But I definitely try to prime myself, especially through music beforehand, to get me into a certain mind state or heart state before I actually write. But for me, yeah, when I'm angry, who said it one time? I was walking with a man one time, and he did a certain type of martial arts. I don't exactly remember. I think it was Korean. And he said, Mateo, there's a lesson: never fight angry.
Yeah.
He said, never
Yeah.
fight angry. You got to be loose. If
Yeah.
you're angry, you're rigid, and you will be narrow-minded. And that also stuck with me too.
Yeah, that reminds me of a quote I saw in Charles Blow's The Devil You Know.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about that in terms of how we organize. And
Mm.
sometimes we organize around the anger, and so we get like narrowed results
Yeah.
when we should literally be trying to fight like the system on all angles. Because it's coming at us at all angles. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta find what your strengths are. For me, right, my levity, or the levity I have about myself, can be disarming to people, but at the same time, we know what it is. Like, you've seen enough of me speaking, like, you know what it is. I'm not all smiles and sunshine, right?
Yeah.
I like to be happy, I like to laugh, but there are serious things that we're talking about. That's what I found. For me, my power is to stay loose, to stay good, and then when necessary, you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah. Like my boy Bruce said, be like water. You know what
Be
I'm
like
saying?
water.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into something I guess more relational. My man Wally Cat,
Wally
right?
Cat.
Wally
OG.
Cat is the homie.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to know if Wally Cat, let me say the original question, but this just came in with me. So like,
Mhm.
Wally Cat gets his wealth from turning something that he loves,
Yep.
which is like observing those horses, right? Into success through observation, which is a skill he cultivated doing what he loved. And
Yep.
so he takes that skill and uses it to watch stocks and get into real estate and business, etc., right? Um, what do you think folk can learn about monetizing things that they love? Um,
Mm.
from Wally Cat's perceived, from like what I thought I saw, ability to have done that and still keep it G. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he's in his neighborhood. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? He didn't at least I don't know if he lives outside of it, but at least for a large portion of the day, he is in his
No,
neighborhood.
he's in there. Yeah, and he owns property too there.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, what can you say about that? Like, this ability to monetize things you love and what he represents in terms of, like, navigating capitalism.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of thoughts. Right. Let's talk about Wally Cat in terms of navigating capitalism. I believe, and you probably heard me say it before, I really perceive these characters to be real people, to the point
Yeah,
where I almost don't want to speak for them at times. But what I get from Wally Cat is that making money for him was just a means to an end. It
mm,
wasn't the main goal.
yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? And that is the same way that I am to a certain extent. For me, it isn't the main goal. I want to have an impact, but I also do want to generate funds, so that I can use them to help and benefit other people, so that in my own personal life, I don't have to, fret about it too much, so that my family will be good and so forth. But it is not the main aim. And Wally Cat is the same way. In terms of taking his love and flipping it into a way that was financially advantageous for him, he just saw that there was a transference of skills.
Mm-hmm.
And what we love might not always transfer, but sometimes it will. So he was able to do that. But aside from Wally Cat, I want to say that one more point actually on Wally Cat
Go
is that,
ahead.
like you said, it is possible for us to chase success and achieve it, hit some of our goals, whether they be financial, spiritual, emotional, whatever have you, and still remain ourselves and not lose it. And as you are bringing up Wally Cat, you're helping me see a parallel, because a younger Darren hasn't learned that yet,
I
even
was
though
wondering, I
Wally
was
Cat is
wondering if they
trying
are,
to
yeah.
teach him.
Yep, yep.
And we see this parallel now, and you're helping me see this.
Mm-hmm.
We see that Darren, because he didn't heed the OG, is now losing himself
Mm-hmm.
because he thinks that it's necessary for him to chase success, when Wally Cat's good. Wally Cat is free. He's
Yeah,
so free that he can chill on an overturned plastic crate on the corner, read the newspaper, shoot the shit, and have fun.
yeah.
and help bestow advice to other people. But the last thing I'll say, and I've been thinking about this in terms of Bookstagram. You know, I spoke with Tracy yesterday. I've been talking with different people, just trying to get the lay of the land, see how I can assist and so forth. People have to be careful when you try to monetize a hobby or a passion or a love, because when you commercialize it, you can get all messed up.
Yeah.
And the people that you serve will perceive that you're all messed up and be like, okay, they're not as authentic. They're not serving me in the same fashion that they were before. So if you are looking to make money with, not even off of, but with what you love, you got to be careful. Yeah. And you got to know what is here to make money and what you're still going to do for the love. Because if the love just becomes for money, in my opinion, it gets sour. It gets real sour.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned the word love. I don't know if you got to see me and Robert Jones Jr. Yesterday? The day before yesterday? Day before yesterday.
No, I haven't peeped it yet, but I was looking at parts of it, and I saw how fly you both were.
Yeah. Well, he's in the chat, and I forgot while we were doing the chat to do this like tradition that I've started to get the author to leave you a question, right? But I hit him up in the DMs. I was like, hey, I forgot. I need to get you a question from Mateo, right?
So Robert,
yes. This is from Robert Jones Jr., the author of The Prophets. And since you mentioned love, I want you to kind of expound on what you were just saying. He asks, how do you think capitalism not only interferes with and blocks our ability to love each other, but also our ability to love ourselves? Hold up. Is it possible, this love thing, in this capitalistic society where we're trained from birth to see it as contractual and transactional? And lastly, what role do you think your love plays in your novel? Yeah, that God man there.
Damn, Robert.
I know. When I was looking at it, I was like,
he hit me with a three-piece, yo. That's what it feels like. It feels like a three-piece.
Yeah, man.
Well, I would say if I can remember
I was going to say, let me know if we need to like do part by part.
Yeah, if I don't address the whole thing, just bring another part back up.
Got it.
As Robert is talking about, we are trained, at least in this nation, and I'm not going to say all nations, but in this nation and in many nations in the West, what we would call the West from our vantage point, right? It's not West for everyone. Is putting profits over people. So in terms of our relationships with others, if we are trained from an early age that this is the trajectory, you go to school, which is a training ground in and of itself, which I commend you for pushing back on, through your own work, Achilles.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the many things that I admire and respect about you. But we are trained to go through this factory for 12 or so years, to become an employee, to take rules being thrown at us that are arbitrary in some ways, and so forth, whether it be a hall pass or whether it be don't wear your hoodie without ever getting explanations for it. Just being told this is the way it is. And then you are told to either go to college, or if you're not going to go to college, get a job, or some people have jobs even beforehand. And then the idea, let's keep in line with this American dream / nightmare, which we know it can be. You go to college, and then afterwards you get a job in an office, and then you get a home, and you are living the American dream that was proliferated in the 50s and so forth, even though we know that it really wasn't with us in mind.
Yeah.
That takes so much out of you as an individual, because you not only regard other people as employees, but you regard yourself as an employee rather than a person, rather than an individual who is beautiful and is valuable aside from whatever profits you are enriching other people, because it's typically other people, or yourself with. So I believe that it starts with value and self-perception, and how that could be corrupted in some ways when you're first born, and making it harder for you to love other people if they aren't as productive or profitable as they could be. And as I'm talking about this has happened in me. This has happened in me with my relationships, my romantic relationships with women at times, where especially when I was working in sales, I was like, damn, how productive is this person? But my notion of productivity was just a byproduct of capitalism, white supremacy, and the patriarchy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it's hard to love other people, and it's hard to love yourself, right? You know how many people, I know that you know people, Killy. I know people who are like, bruh, I'm not really doing much right now. I'm just trying to get by. I don't love myself.
Yeah.
You don't love yourself because you're not making bank.
Yeah.
And it's not on me, I guess, to judge whether you love yourself or not. But I think that that's just, a byproduct of people thinking that they are not lovable or worthy of love if they are not doing X, Y, Z, making money or rising up or so forth. So that's my answer to the question. Did I not address one part? Maybe the last part?
I think the only part that you might not have addressed is just how do you do you think that love is possible inside of that system?
Yeah, I do. If you know yourself, and if your love isn't tied to the system, most definitely. Me, when I got caught up, when I was working at the startup, and I always feel like I got to say it just so it's not like I'm painting an incomplete picture. When I was there, and even in hindsight, it was not all bad. There was a lot of good. And it's funny because, who was this? Oh, I was giving a talk at a company earlier this week, and this person said, I really wanted Darren to become Darren again by the end of the book, referring to himself as Darren.
You just stole two of my questions.
My bad.
It's all good.
Not being Buck. And not being Buck. And what I say is, I respect that. I understand it. From my perspective, and this is just like my own life, Darren had gained tools when he became Buck. It wasn't all bad. Darren would not have started the Happy Campers. Only Buck could have done that. But he did not have to lose himself to be Buck if he had known who he was and if his self-worth wasn't tied to that system. So to answer the last part of the esteemed, the honorable Robert Jones Jr.'s question, yes, I do believe that love is possible in one of these systems, or in this system, in this capitalistic society, if your intrinsic value isn't tied to capital.
Listen, so my first question, I don't know if I said this on a live before or anything, but I used to work in a bank. I used to do consumer loans before I became a teacher.
This. Yo, Akil, you have lived so many lives. I heard the McDonald's story.
Yes.
Mr. Water back in college. Who are you, brother?
Man, I asked me and one of my students, and she pops on from time to time. We were having like one of my gifts, I guess I give my kids, is these conversations, right? Yeah. These huge, long debates. And I was telling her to make sure that she looks for God, right? Like I was like, you can read, and that's a question I have. You can read all the holy texts that you want, right? That's a question I have about the rooms. I got all the stuff here, but make sure that you look for evidence, right? And I told her about this weird trajectory of my life, right? I'm born in the Natchez. I worked at the McDonald's, right? And then I go into banking, right? And then I make this decision to become a teacher, right? And then now I'm becoming whatever. I don't know what I am. What's happening right now?
Forced to be reckoned with, brother.
And and at each of those stages, I had no idea where things were going, right? But when I have those conversations, I was like, all of it led to me being able to have these conversations with y'all. Like I'm able to talk to them about credit because I was a banker. I'm able to talk to them about these first jobs that they get because I was at McDonald's and I got fired, right? And then not only did I get fired, but I got fired by a student whose mother was the person who fired me, and now I teach the student. Which gives this credibility to the stories for them. They're like, my mama fired you? I was like, yeah, look, she had
you about to get this F? No, I'm
good. So yeah, man, like you never know where things can kind of take you. and what the universe or God or whatever you think your higher power is has in store for what you're going through, you
Yeah.
know? And I said all that to say I've been Jared,
Yep.
right? I've been Woulda,
Yep.
right? And I am Akil Missouri. And
Yes,
all
sir.
of those things are central to me, you
Mm.
know? And so one of my questions was, what do you have to say about people who ask that question? I was like, well, he has gained so much through this, right? And
Yes.
I gained those same things along
Yes.
those different lines of all these different people I've become, when in reality it's just it, it says, my one of my quotes is, they say God moves in mysterious ways, but I pay attention to the circles she draws, right?
Wow.
It's just one big circle, right?
Yeah.
Of this divine plan that you have no idea about, you know?
And and
Um,
and, and I think it's beautiful. It's difficult, extremely difficult to surrender yourself to the fact that we aren't always in control. I think that
yeah,
there could be times that we are, but for me, especially during this journey as a writer, the healthiest times, I guess, was when I was like, okay, if this one manuscript doesn't work out, then this one wasn't supposed to work out. I'm gonna ask myself and figure out why, and then keep going.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
because there, of course, we could say that there are mistakes that people make, but in hindsight, mistakes are just, little detours to get you to where you need to be, and then you're
yeah,
gonna go somewhere else.
absolutely.
And whether it's good or bad depends on your vantage point,
Yeah,
which could change in hindsight as well.
yeah, man. Like, so yeah, man. Like, the people are in chat are like, this, the elevation, you know what I'm saying?
Really?
Yeah,
Yo,
they're like,
I always love the chat. Whenever I do this again, I'm making sure I'm off Wi-Fi because I've learned that if you get off Wi-Fi or if you mess with IG a little bit, this thing is so
mm-hmm.
sensitive that it cuts off. The last thing I got was from AJ like 20 minutes ago, but I just imagine, I can imagine people are keeping it live, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, man. So I guess I'll do one more of my questions. Then I'll get into the questions here, and then I'll check and see what you got going on as far as time. So I don't want to
Yeah,
hold you too long.
right.
So let me see where it's at, because I did want to ask this question because it was so fascinating to me, and I don't think I've heard you talk about it yet. Let's see. Oh, I do got two. I do got two.
Hey, hey.
Hold up, because I got to know what you were doing with this. Where is it? I know I typed it in here. Here it is. Okay. So another thing I noticed, which I saw it when I read the first time, but I was
Yeah,
putting some extra pieces to it, and I don't think I
yeah.
heard you explain this. Um, Buck is said to resemble, I believe, five people.
Mm-hmm.
You got MLK, who he gets from Rhett.
Yep,
You got Sidney Poitier, who he
yep.
gets from Jen. You've got Malcolm X, who he gets from Clyde. Dave Chappelle from Frodo, and then Morgan Freeman from The Englishman. What are you saying
We
about
got
how
Drake. We got Drake from Bonnie Seren by
there's
the
a
end of
Drake?
that thing. Yeah,
Yeah, I knew it. Okay, Drake by Bonnie,
yeah.
which I think I see what's going on there. But
Mm.
anyway, what are you saying about artists, activists through the invisibility of that Darren is experiencing? And based on who says it, right? Like, for instance, I'm wondering if, because Sidney Poitier was a sex symbol and Drake is a sex symbol,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if both of these women are white, I'm wondering if there's some play on the value of black men, you know what I'm saying, through the eyes
Mm-hmm.
of, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 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 yeah. Cook, explain.
So listen, I'm not gonna front and act like I was trying to do something super deep with all that. I'm gonna tell you
Okay,
my
okay.
intentions behind it. But this again is the type of analysis that helps me check my intention, right? Um, when I was coming up with the people that these um, people would compare Darren to, I was just thinking who would be most likely for them to
To
think
just to
of.
have, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and not always, right? I think it was Clyde who was on some Malcolm X, right? So I can't exactly say why Clyde said Malcolm X, but who knows? Because there's many white people who hate Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Because they only know part of Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
And they say Malcolm X called us devils, right? They don't know about, I was going to say a converted, but a transformed and just a Malcolm who
Malik
grew.
El-Shabazz. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And even if he was on some, I just hate these white people, can you blame him? His father, right, supposedly got murked by the Klan.
Did they put him like on some train tracks or something? Like,
yeah, his mother is a byproduct of her mother in Grenada being raped by a Scottish man. Okay, I'm just saying, would you blame him even if he didn't become, who he became after the Hajj? So that's what I was thinking in terms of the people who brought up these individuals. But the more obvious intention was to show a couple things. One, how many of us are constantly compared to people who we don't resemble at all. I hadn't really spoken about that with so many people. I put it in there because I was like, oh, this has happened to me. Bro, you know how many people have hit me up and were like, I've been compared to Grace Jones, Halle Berry, Jada Pinkett Smith. You know how many people have hit me up with their own 3 to 5 people that they've been compared with? Where I'm like, damn, everyone. And they're like, these white people will compare me with a smile on their face saying that I should be proud to be compared to these people. It's usually done with good intentions. So that for me was a real joy to know that it was resonating with people on that level, and that we could laugh about it while also knowing like, yeah, this is some ridiculous type shit. I also wanted to say with the fact that these people who worked 36 floors above Darren and likely saw him often rendered him invisible because, not just because he was black. There you go. Answer it. Listen, it right there with what you're about to do.
This is another part that I want to ask. The only time they realize who he is when he's at the last day of Hell Day and he puts the hat on, right? And so I wondered, were you saying that they only can see us through our usefulness, right? Because it was like he was only visible when he puts the uniform on.
Well, it was a couple things. One, that it was commentary on the fact that people who are in service are often not seen as people. And I was just showing how ridiculous it is that, and I was showing from the vantage point in the beginning, right? That Darren knew who Jen was. Darren knew who Clyde was.
Yep.
He knew their drinks.
Yep.
They did not know him because he was not in his uniform. And while it's absurd and ridiculous, it's not far from reality. If you see your doorman every day, or your door, whoever, I don't have a doorman. Let me just be clear, right? If someone sees a door person every day, and then all of a sudden you see this individual, wearing a sweater and some slacks, that walking down the street, maybe not too far from where you live, you're going to think it's a stranger.
Yeah.
This individual who greets you every day, you're going to think that they are a stranger. So I was showing that we, in so many spaces, have this duality where we are invisible, but hyper invisible. Yet we are still never seen as individuals.
Yeah, man. When I was piecing that together, I was like, oh yeah, my man cooking, dog. My man is cooking, man. And the setup, man, there's that whole naming process is almost like this breadcrumb trail, right? Like if you happen to miss it at the last day of Hell Day, then here are these, it's this breadcrumb trail to where you should notice it at least by the end. You know what I'm saying? Man, he was cooking, dog. And
real quick, Achille, again, now that I'm looking at you and we're having these conversations, again, I'm making another parallel that my own book I didn't think about. Part 3 or part 4, Jason is in a service role now.
Yeah.
Jason had never been. He's at Mickey D's. He had never been at Mickey D's. Yeah. So it sort of switched, right? But we also see the different environment of that Mickey D's in Bed-Stuy and Brooklyn around black people than Starbucks in Manhattan.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's totally different. And I'm not going to say that everyone in Brooklyn saw Jason as an individual, but at least they probably saw him as a human,
Yeah.
as a person. And there's that funny scene where the dude's just trying to get his
He
Mickey
like,
Riddle,
yeah,
and
he like, yeah, come on.
yeah. So
Look,
thank you for that.
absolutely, man. I got another funny for you, man. Since you can't see the chat, Reggie said, Mateo, you do kind of look like Halle Berry.
It's an honor. Thank you. Halle Berry,
Halle
hallelujah.
Berry. All right, let me let some of these folks cook for a little bit. Um, mm, ooh, interesting.
Ooh, what we got,
Mm,
man? I'm getting.
mm. Ooh, okay. Let's go here first because this is something I'm interested in. This is from Dear Book Club. Mateo, would you ever teach creative writing at an HBCU or other university?
Hmm. You know, when I've thought about this, because I got friends who are professors and friends who teach creative writing. When I've thought about this, I would always say, no, I'm good because I don't want to have to deal with other academics. I don't want to have to deal with people trying to tell me what to do or saying, show up to
Hmm.
this or that meeting, right? I feel as though I can do what I got to do, whether it's related to creative writing, business, sales, what have you, through an IG Live or through a clubhouse event or through me recording videos down the line and just putting them out on YouTube or so forth, right? Because I am constantly thinking about how can I get just what I know, and what I know is a fraction compared to what I don't know, but how can I disseminate some of the keys that I got to navigate at least right this industry, just telling my story, or if people want to talk about contracts, or people want to talk about what it was like on a publicity run and so forth, how can I disseminate and spread this information on a wider scale? I'm constantly thinking about that. And when I get the time, aside from doing lives or talking lit on Friday, or we got a clubhouse event with diverse shelves on Monday, I'm really going to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah.
But never before have I thought about teaching, like, okay, what if I taught at a HBCU? Because that throws a different, that honestly gets me a lot more excited. I'm not
Yeah.
going to front. And that is something that, now that you bring it up, dear book club, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love to do that, at least for a semester, to see how it feels, to see if, I actually have to go to other meetings, or to see what it's like to have that impact on
Yeah.
young, predominantly Black people and Black scholars.
Hmm.
So you bringing that up makes me think that I would love to do that.
Yeah. Like that. That's, one reason why I feel like it's a little bit easier for me to do like what I do in terms of the types of books I bring into the classroom because most people are black. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And so these experiences, they can look at them and see themselves, and they also like Killer Mike was talking about like how important he thinks it is for like black people to like incubate among other black people before they like go out
mm,
into the world in order to like build this self-esteem and this understanding of like who you are and where you come from before you can like be attacked by the inevitable white
yes,
supremacy that awaits you
yes,
outside, um,
yes.
which is something that I think is so important. Like I really drive that home in my classroom, but I think that's important, and that's why I want to ultimately like end up at a HBCU when I get done with my PhD.
Dope,
Let's
dope, man. I
see.
have no doubt you will.
Yeah, he's trying to kill me, man. I hope. Okay. This is from 50 Sochet, I believe. What, if any, misconceptions and insecurities did you have about yourself that Black Buck revealed or showed you?
That's a great question. What up, Shay?
Hmm.
Misconceptions.
And or insecurities.
Um, Obviously, now you see me thinking.
Hmm. That's a good
Misconception.
question. That's a really good question.
Yeah, misconceptions. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'd have to think back on it. You know, I was discussing this um, in my chat with Reggie, that for me, I worked through so much, at least as me as a writer, with essays that I wrote before Black Book.
Mm-hmm.
So the fears I had of people I knew from growing up or where I worked reading my stuff, I worked through some of that and just got into like, I don't care mode. Me being able to write, I got through that. I guess with Black Buck, and I've touched on this before, but I'm happy to speak on it now, and hopefully this will answer the question in some ways. What I'm not wrestling with, but something that I know could be out there in terms of this industry, or in terms of people who read the book or hear about the book because the book has been hyped up, is the thought about me just being a salesman who wrote a book about sales, or me actually being a real writer.
Yeah.
So this, again, I'm not saying it's something I wrestle with because I know who I am.
Yeah.
I know what I can do, and I know what I am going to do, at least in the world of novel writing. I know that I can write essays. I've written a bunch of essays that I'm proud of. Not all of them, definitely not all of them, but there are a couple in there that I'm happy about.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of you know, the impact. But I am sure that that's a thought that other people are having.
Yeah.
And that's cool. You know, we'll see what it is with the next book.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna have to deal. I mean, you know, and I know that you're gonna like. I'm excited to see what you're gonna cook up, man. That's
Thanks,
one of
man.
the questions that's in there. Like, what's your next novel about? But I don't know if you know, if you
Yeah, it's
oblige.
people will get the gist of it probably in I can't say when, but sometime this year for sure. Um, but it's going to be nothing like Black Book.
Okay. Okay.
There will be, of course, similarities in themes and the people I have in mind while writing it, and the impact that I want to have, and me pushing myself to go hard,
Mm-hmm.
and to really make people feel things, many things. But it's not going to be on the face anything like Black Book.
Okay. Okay. Well, we are very excited about Wally Cat's novel being your second novel. You heard it here first, people.
Is that what people are talking about? Listen, when people started flipping it on me and were like, nah, Mateo, I don't care about a sequel. I want a prequel focused on Wally Cat. I was like, damn, that would
Yeah.
be interesting though.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do well. What we got about maybe what 15, 20 more
I
minutes?
got
You
time,
good?
man.
Okay.
What time is it now? Because I can't see it on my phone.
Uh, well, I guess it's 5:10 for y'all.
I got whatever you want, man.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. So I have a question about those rooms.
Yeah.
Um, so Rhett insists on naming the rooms after these holy texts. You have
Yep.
the Quran eh, in that thing.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
hmm You had the Bhagavad Gita.
Mm-hmm. Damn, you
Yeah.
just got these on deck?
hmm And of course, you have his insistence on certain verses, right?
Yes.
And then there's a Torah room, but I don't have the Torah.
Yeah.
I'm working my way there, I guess. You know, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I read the Bible. I had an uncle that read the whole Bible, so I read the Bible like one and a half times in terms
Mm.
of like straight through. And I worked my way through the Quran, but I need to go through again,
Yeah.
because that, you know, it's there's a level of like beauty and like complexity in the Quran that I just love. And
I
the
wish I could
bug,
see what the chat's saying right now, because you are being very casual about having read these tomes and
yeah,
incredible text, man.
yeah,
Incredible.
yeah. I don't, talk about it a lot because everybody has their thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, this sucker. When I read like I said, I read the Bible for very selfish reasons. 'Cause I wanted my mom to stop saying how awesome my uncle was, and I was like, I
Wow.
too am awesome.
Yeah. I got an aunt. I got an aunt that's read the Bible many times. Many
Yeah.
times.
And my homeboy Shamil gave me this Gita because I was interested in like, gaining an understanding of Hindu culture, etc.
Yeah.
Um and he was like, yeah, well the Vedas is like you'll never make it to that, but the Bhagavad Gita You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, more digestible.
Yeah, he was like, you can make it through that. And because I was saying I was gonna go to the library. He's like, nah, let me get you the best
Yeah.
translation, that I would say is available. And so he gave me that. And so I was wondering what is being said because Rhett insists on these things, but Buck reveals that none of these rooms have any resemblance to the cultures um, that they are attempting to, I guess, appropriate, possibly.
Yep. Yeah. So for anyone who has ever worked in a startup, this is not going to be foreign. Like when you're at many startups, they name their rooms
Mm,
out of things. Yeah, they name their rooms. When I worked at a startup, our rooms were named a variety of things that
yeah.
are relevant to the startup and their mission
Mm,
or their product and so forth, or something to do with the startup. So that is what I'm conveying. That because they are selling a service that connects individuals with assistants who are uncertified, who have a variety of different followings, that they said, and this is very like a startup thing. Oh,
yeah,
let's just
yeah,
name rooms after these texts, right? Where it can be perceived as being disrespectful
yeah.
or just ridiculous to culturally appropriate these sacred texts in that way, naming your rooms after them. So that's what I was showing. We see cultural appropriation rampant throughout the book. Think about the names of
I
the
was just gonna
sales
say the
teams:
names of the. I was just thinking about that.
Tupac
Tupac
Shakur,
Shakur.
Lorang Hill,
I
all
started to
these
get a
things.
shirt made that said Lauryn Hill, man.
Negotiators with attitude, right? This is not while those instances are made up, they're not far from reality.
Yeah,
Startups
yeah,
do these things, especially if they don't have black people or other people of color in there to check them, or
yeah,
even if they do, but the people don't feel empowered to check the majority,
yeah,
they're going to run with these types of things.
yeah,
And the last thing I'll say, it's somewhat tangential, but we see them blasting "We Dem Boys"
yeah.
when Buck first rolls in and they throw a ball and he catches it. They say the
Mm-hmm.
brother could catch.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was commenting on how so many of these people and organizations love to consume our culture, but don't like to view us as human.
mm-hmm.
And you need to not look any further than a sports game
Yeah. I
where
was.
they're
Oh my
looking
God.
at LeBron as a slave, an enslaved
Yes,
individual,
yes.
right? Like they own the franchise. Come on, LeBron, work harder, blah blah blah. And they know no black people, or they don't view black people, like we were talking about before, as being greater than their function.
Mm-hmm.
The function being a basketball player, a rapper, a janitor, in some cases a CEO, right? Who
Yeah.
is then performing the function of making venture capitalists or their investors money and so forth. There's levels to this, man.
Yeah, man. And I wanted to commend you on the hilarity of those three companies too that came like right after the naming of the groups. You had what was it? Was it Space
Space
XXX?
XXX.
I was like, get this man.
Dana Media,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then was
One
there
was
an Interscope
Interscope.
fake
It
one?
was, yeah, you made a joke on Interscope. The man's name was like something Avine instead of Jimmy Iovine.
Listen, this is fiction. I will neither confirm nor deny which characters are based on people or person that you just recommended.
Man, that tickled me, dog. That just tickled
Yo, I
me,
had
man.
to fill out a whole legal questionnaire for
Yeah.
lawyers to look at. Yeah, with anything that could have been inspired from real life or have a hint of something, I had to fill out this whole thing so that these lawyers would have it on deck just in case.
Man, I was wondering, Disha was talking a little bit about that too. And like how an editor was going out and fact checking certain things too.
Mm. Hmm.
Um look at Reggie. I
What do you
can't
say?
He said Bonnie Soren and then I'll just say Tamisha Lauren.
Reggie, I will neither confirm nor deny anything.
Yeah, man. Let's see. I'll get some more from in here. That is interesting. Hmm. Hmm.
I see
I
you
wish I could.
thinking.
I wish I could see the rest of that.
Yo, when that happens, I can't see the whole question sometimes
Um.
when it's mad long.
Ollie, are you still in here? Because I want to know the last part of that. Um, she said Buck goes through two of the categories in Stamped, just wondering why he didn't hit the third assimilation. I think maybe she's talking about those. You got an integrationist, assimilationist, and then abolitionist, maybe. Um,
She's asking why he didn't assimilate.
I guess so. Why he didn't hit the third, and she has a. Oh, maybe it's okay. I'm thinking that what's happening at the back is assimilationist was the first one, segregationist was the second one, and I think the last one is abolitionist. I think. So why he didn't get to being an abolitionist? I guess like get to how like there is this thread of socialism being the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm wondering. Oh, anti-racist. Okay, anti-racist is the last one. They're telling me in the chat now. Anti-racist, which I guess is kind of similar to abolitionist per se, but
Mm.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
anti-racist.
don't know. I'm thinking about this. I mean, he's definitely, in my opinion, an anti-racist, whether
That's
we
from
see it in the book. Like, I don't think he needs to say it all the time, but his form of anti-racism and bucking the system is through empowerment,
yeah,
and that's the same way that
yeah,
I'm wired too. Like, I don't need to say I'm anti-racist. It's in the core of my very being and
yeah.
in the core of my actions. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's the
I
way that
think
I
so because
perceive.
that's what I was thinking the answer would be because I was like I think he's an anti-racist and I can see how he went through assimilationist and then someone could argue that maybe Happy Campers was segregationist.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would think that he made it there. Um, yeah, I think he made it there and he's still there because you are kind of like Darren. You know what I'm
In
saying
some
in what
ways, and,
you
and
do.
that's the way that I was looking at the book. The book was, of course, to discuss white supremacy,
Hmm.
but not just discuss it, show it,
Yeah,
how it
yeah,
manifests without. I don't need. I don't, maybe. I mean, the term white supremacist might only be used once or twice in the book, if that. Right? You don't. You know what these people are, and
hmm,
yes, it's important to sometimes call people, or often to call people by their names,
yeah.
but it's shown, it's interwoven into the thread of the book. But I also didn't want to focus on that. I wanted
Hmm.
the focus by the end to be empowerment. And that's what I wanted to do with this book. I wasn't looking to tear white people down whatsoever. I was looking to build black and brown people up through it.
Yeah,
That for me is just far more interesting. Like
yeah.
when you write a book, you are spending months and then years on getting it out and then promotion and so forth, right? From when we sold the book in August 2019, then
Mm.
it comes out January, 2021, and it was supposed to come out in April, actually. You are living with this book, and it's been making me think about you have to be very intentional in terms of what you write about because you will be talking about it for a long time,
Yeah, yeah,
every day. And I had to check in with myself, and I actually haven't checked in with myself too deeply on it, but I was wondering, it's like, yo, are you good? Talking to myself, are you good? Because you're talking about racism, white supremacy, all of these topics every day
yeah,
for
yeah,
hours.
yeah,
When me, just like you, I was just living it and thinking about it, and that's how I was able to write it. And I would talk about it with friends, of course, and discuss it, but it wasn't every day,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
multiple hours worth, and speaking to groups of 50 or 100 or 150 people or so forth about it so often, and being put on the spot to not speak for it or speak for anyone, but to speak my truth and my perception. And I think I'm okay. And, I feel good and I feel happy to be able to do this work. And I try to think of my parents, right? What I'm doing is not nothing, but it somewhat pales in significance to the work that they had to do, for me and
Hmm.
my brothers, just for us to be where we are. So
Yeah,
that's what I try to think about. Or if I really want to get extreme, thinking about our ancestors. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
if our ancestors had to not cut cane or pick cotton and just be doing company talks and all this all the time, they would have done that in a second, right?
Listen, I tell myself that all the time, like when I'm feeling like imposter syndrome or stress from like, the PhD,
Mm-hmm.
that all right, granddaddy would be like, boy, please. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? So yeah. Reggie asks, can you talk a little bit about the parallels between the Black Panther Party and the Happy Campers?
Yeah, thank you, Reggie. I had one of my homies, and I discussed this a little bit. I had a homie who said, "Yo, bro, can you discuss why Buck founded the Happy Campers as for people of color, but at the beginning of the book, he says that he's addressing this for Black people?"
Yeah.
And as I was talking about earlier, Buck, I believe, decides to write it to Black people to just narrow his scope of at least his intentions and guiding the narrative. I know that's why the author of the book did it. But with the Happy Campers, and this wasn't, I don't even know if it was actually intentional, but I wanted it to be like a rainbow coalition.
Yeah.
And for people who have seen Judas and the Black Messiah, or people who were privy to what Chairman Fred Hampton did before and so many others, they knew about the Rainbow Coalition. And that was why I believe Buck did it that way, strengthen numbers, knowing that not all of our experiences as people of color are the same, and there are differences, and we know the racism that we as Black people face from other non-Black people, POC or white. But that's a parallel, Reggie, for sure. Then at the end, when there are the free Buck signs, let that yawn out. I see you. When there are the free Buck signs, that was straight up inspired by the free Huey signs that came about, when Huey Newton was locked up. I was like, okay, let me draw this direct parallel to let people know that the Happy Campers, to a certain extent, were, on the same type of thing as the Black Panthers, and that people were looking at Buck in some ways as like a Huey Newton type figure, and so forth. Yeah.
And I wanted to say something about what you were saying about you and your own self-care too, because I was thinking while you were saying it, I was like, how I believe, I can't remember who, but it was said that, most Black people have PTSD, right? From like navigating these things daily, microaggressions, racism, white supremacy, and institutional racism, right? Then I was like,
also in our DNA.
Yeah, the genetic trauma, the blood memory that Robert was talking about. And I was like, I've thought about it, but I'm just like, man, you need to, check on yourself, and so does Robert, and so, so does everybody who are writing these stories, that inevitably will have to, talk about these topics, because unfortunately they're such an integral part of our lives as people of color. And I was just thinking about that, man. You meditating, which, is it the yerba mate?
Every morning I meditate, man. I check in with people who love me unconditionally. I try to eat healthy foods, trying to sleep enough, but also, a conversation like this. And again, this is why I mess with Bookstagram and Black Bookstagram so much, is it gives me life. It never really feels like work at all. I'm just chopping it up with homies. And like what you've done this week, I was thinking about it last night. Was it last night? Yeah, it was last night, because I loved the conversation with Reggie, and then I had to dip a few minutes before 8 Eastern because I did an interview with Vulgar Geniuses. Shout out to
I saw that.
To Denny and Veronica. But I was like, yo, we have been talking books like 24/7 this week. Thanks to Achille. Thanks to Bookstagram, we've been talking books so often, and thanks to all of Bookstagram, but also Black Bookstagrammers, we've been talking Black books for a minute.
Yeah, man.
And I love what Crystal came out with. I don't know if Crystal's still in here, but what Crystal came out with her reel, I think it was today, about people who have a huge to-be-read pile of books by Black authors for Black History Month. And the question is, which of those have you actually read, and will you still read them after Black History Month? I just think it's powerful, man. So this is to say that this type of interaction gives me life.
Yeah. Man, it definitely gives me life, man. It's I mean, this is super fun,
Hell yeah.
like, I'm like, okay, maybe I can, knock one of these out, every month at least, because again, I'm literally getting better at reading and writing by like sitting and having these conversations with you guys, and the conversation that goes on in the chat, and the
Yep.
conversation that happens around the book,
Yep.
for me to like see things that I would have never seen. And like I was telling you earlier, to break through those saying plateaus, and you know,
Yeah, yeah.
now I'm at this next level, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you
And
got to do a fusion.
yeah, yeah. That's what me and Reggie were doing last night. The books are pop culture fusion. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, this is
Yo,
this.
shout out to Dragon Ball Z. Shout out to black people who watch Dragon Ball Z.
I'm
Dragon
telling
Ball
you.
Z, I've learned, and just anime in general, we love it. And we are some
Yeah.
of the biggest consumers of it. I've
Mm-hmm.
never been to Comic-Con, but I've read stories of black people who have gone to Comic-Con.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think there have been good stories, and then other stories, maybe not so much, because they say, this fake character wasn't black. And you're like,
Yeah.
what?
Listen,
Anyway.
man, I told my kids, I was like, all right, now look, y'all ready? All right, Goku got an afro. His people were enslaved and
Yep.
forced to do the hard labor, right?
Yep.
In order to like beat them, he has to like be twice as good. I was like, when he's angry, maybe a little bit stronger than other people. You know what I'm saying? I was like, what that sound like?
Yo, but let me not front. When I would watch it as a kid, I always thought Piccolo was black.
Yes, and Popo. We knew Mr. Popo was black,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Piccolo is the homie, man.
Hell
So
yeah.
much
Shout
of
out to
that,
Namek.
yeah, so much of that like inspired me growing up, so
Me
to work
too.
out. Like I would and I still do that, like, I work out with like crazy amounts of like weight on me from like when Piccolo dropped the joint, you know what I'm saying?
With Chambers, yeah.
Yeah, man. So yeah, sorry guys for us nerding out, man, but you know what I'm
No,
saying? Yeah.
I think that for me and maybe for you too, that it was powerful to feel like you had some innate power
Yeah.
in you, right? That you
Hmm.
were just built with this energy and this power despite circumstances or odds or how people would view you. And Goku was someone to rally behind.
Yeah, man. And I got my son. He's addicted too, man. We watch One Piece.
Yeah.
We watch One Piece, Fairy Tale. Shucky, what else we be watching? Oh, he can't hear. I guess he gaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man, anime is where it's at, man. Let me
Hell yeah.
see what we got in here. Ooh. Okay. Uh, I think let's do this one for our last one from here. This
All
is
right.
from the incomparable Mika. What other
Mika.
genre would you like to write? Mm-hmm.
Mika.
Mm-hmm.
Mika's slick.
Mm-hmm.
Mika
Stop
is
playing with
slick.
him.
And it's funny because I didn't say this to Mika, but when I saw your video this morning, I was thinking, I was like, Achilles giving Mika a run for her money.
Hey, look, I think I told her I was inspired by her and Kat, and yeah, I was like, yeah, y'all be killing it.
All of this content, man. Yeah. Kat. Shout out to Kat. She's bringing her
Mm-hmm.
own flavor. She
Books
got
in Vogue,
that
yeah.
gamer flavor. Yeah. All I'm gonna say is I will likely write in a few genres
Mm,
in the future.
yeah.
And I can't say too much, but I'm going to be experimenting. I'm going to be writing in multiple genres, or if I do my job right,
Yeah.
one book will contain multiple genres, right? Like Black Buck, in my opinion, contains a comedy, a drama, a tragedy. It's a thriller by the end. And I don't know if that will be one of my signatures. I don't know what my signature style, at least in novel writing, will be.
Yeah.
It could be, incorporating some humor. I'm not sure, but we will see. Thank you for the question, Mika.
Yeah. Did you read I think it's you. I hadn't said it yet this week, this one yet, guys, but my reconnaissance. Was it you that read the Stephen King book
On writing,
on
yeah.
writing? Okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I read it the first time, Stephen King, it looks like you got a something out of it, right? Because he has that same quality of like a narrative, a plot that's so driving. It's like, you know what I mean?
Oh
And
yeah,
I
I got a
have it.
lot out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I have it over there. I was like, yeah. When I was doing the reconnaissance, I'm like, yeah, I need to go and finish that. I started it. I think I stopped. I think wasn't somebody like farted on his head at like the early
I don't remember
beginning or
that one, but
something.
maybe.
Somebody sat on him or something. His babysitter or something.
Well, what I got most out of it, aside from anything to do with plot, was it helped me get out of this creative rock bottom that I'd fallen
Mm,
into after my first two manuscripts didn't go anywhere. By going anywhere, I mean getting me an agent or a book deal. And especially with the second manuscript, I'm so happy. There was no energy into it. This is sort of graphic, but I describe the second manuscript as having been castrated. It had no
yeah,
vigor, had no energy. The first one did, but it was all over. The second one was tight, but it had no energy. And I was like, damn, that second one I actually wrote for agents. I was like, I'm writing this with agents in mind. It's going to be undeniable. And
mm-hmm,
it was. So when I read On Writing, it was Stephen King was speaking to me in the way that I hope that I speak with people. Just
yeah,
no
yeah,
nonsense,
yeah,
no BS, no pretentious esoteric type of talk about, well, one has to do this to be a
mm-hmm,
writer,
mm-hmm,
and you must do this type of syntax. It was, yo, he probably didn't say yo, he's
yeah,
probably like, the way that I write all of my books
yeah, yeah,
is just getting my characters into a crazy scenario, then figuring out how to get them out of it over the course of a couple hundred pages or not. I
yeah,
said, bet. That's sort of simple enough. Then he said, the best way to become a better, and you brought this up, the best way to become a better writer is through writing more and reading more. I
yeah,
said, I can do that too. I am
mm-hmm,
committed. This is a man, right, who is the best or one of the best at what he does living so far, right,
mm-hmm,
who's alive. Um, and he's breaking it down in such a down-to-earth way that I was like, bang,
yeah,
I can do this. Let me go ahead and work on what's true to me, true to the reality that I want to present, that many of us live through, and true to the reality of the nation world we live in. And a couple months later, Black Buck was born.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and add that to my research pile I got over here. Have I showed you the research pile?
Now, let me see. Yo, Achilles, listen, man. I don't know who's rocking with us here. I'm gonna do something that I've never done before.
What you got?
And this wasn't planned, but you just showing me that, it makes me feel like I gotta take the phone off for the first time and show the bookcase.
Oh no, exclusive. Yes.
I don't know. Can I flip this?
Yeah, you should be able to flip it, son. There it
All
is.
right. Shout out to Chadwick. It's funny when that Time magazine came out. I just knew
Yeah,
that it was a moment, so I
yeah,
kept it. And when he passed, this was at my parents' house. When he passed, they said that they found the Time magazine that I had saved
yeah,
and had put it in plastic. So I got him that. I got some camera. Shout out to my younger brother, Fifth God. He got me this.
yeah.
That's also me and Fifth. Again, I got four brothers. I got the Prophets rocking behind me
Word, word.
just for, whenever we got interviews going on, I like to show support to Robert. I got the Mate cups everywhere. This is a snowboard, Black men
Word.
snowboard. Me and my boy
Yes.
Gal went last week, and quite often, either me and my oldest brother Darius when he's in the States, or me and my homie Gal, we are like two of two Black people
Yeah.
on the mountain. Or sometimes we see a couple more, we're like, oh, they're out there, but they're
Yeah.
skiing, so they lose some points. Anyway, we got this right here, some of my favorite books. Black Skin, White Masks, The Street by
I got it.
Pedigree,
Yeah.
of course, Residue Years, The
Residue years.
Mothers. We got Langston Hughes,
There go that Paul
J.M.
Beatty.
Colson Whitehead, Bandy. This book, Bandy, The Accusation, was written either by one person or a group of people in North Korea.
Yeah.
And the book was smuggled out in parts to South Korea.
Wow.
And if you want to get a
Let me type
vibe
that
for
down.
what's really going on in North Korea, Bandy. Bandy means firefly, I believe.
Yeah.
John Henry Days, James McBride, Octavia Butler, Corregidora, There, Homegoing, Widow Basquiat,
Man,
Middle
you got-
Passage by Charles Johnson. Read that.
Yeah.
White Boy Shuffle, Tar Baby, The
Yes.
book, Alan Watts is a white man. He's a white mystic who, when I was 18, I would
Oh,
listen
I
to
already
his,
know. Yeah, Alan
yeah, I'd
Watts.
listen to his
Yes.
tapes.
Yes.
Dharma Bums. I was on some of that, like some of that transcendentalist type beatnik writing for a minute.
Listen.
There we go. Going to Meet the Man. George Orwell a little bit.
Iceberg.
Issa Rae. If He Hollers, Let Him Go.
Yes.
Behold the Dreamers. The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Shout out to Milan Kundera. That book, I read it at a time when I needed to read it, especially regarding my relationships with people. Dubliners, James Joyce, again, one of those dead white men. But what I liked about Dubliners is that it is just reflective of the everyday people in Ireland, and that's what he's writing about. These are books that I have to read, that I haven't read yet.
Okay.
A variety of different types. We got Yesterday's History by Kosoko Jackson, Ice by Ray Shell. Even got Frederick Bachman. We got 2 galleys here that I got to read to give blurbs.
Yeah.
A bunch of William Melvin Kelly. So William Melvin Kelly's daughter, shout out to you, Jesse, his family contacted me because they saw that I loved a different drummer. And I got a set of these from
I think
them.
I saw you post that. Yeah.
Oh, bro, I got a set of the English or the UK versions as well.
Yeah.
And they got me given a blurb for the UK version. These are other favorite books. Queenie, Heavy, of course, Richard Wright. How Long Till Black Future Month, Erasure by Percival
I see
Everett.
your homegirl right there. Everybody looking.
Candace.
Yeah.
If you haven't read Erasure by Percival Everett, check that out. A different drummer, How to Love a Jamaican. If you want a dense read, even though you see a small class, that's nonfiction, I think from like the 60s or 80s, and it talks about the class system in America and also discusses on the middle class and how the middle class is the most anxious and paranoid class because the people who have to fight to get into it are worried about going back to being in quote unquote lower income. And the people that fell into it from upper income are trying to get out of it. There's this anxiety of keeping up with the Joneses. There we go. Of course, Dick Gregory autobiography. Ocean Vuong. If you haven't read Ocean Vuong, oh my God. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. Let's go. Chester Himes, A Rage in Harlem. Another Iceberg Slim. Again, I've been reading Mad Iceberg Slim, not just Pimp.
Yeah.
Night Song by John A. Williams, incredible jazz novel.
I'm hoping somebody gets me that one. It's on my list, my wish list.
Again, joints that I got to read, some classics like Man-Child in the Promised Land. Haven't read that yet.
Yeah.
Lost in the City. Haven't read that yet. A bunch. James Brown, autobiography. I love James Brown.
Patsy.
We even got, Beloved. I've had Beloved here for a minute, for actually probably like 2 or 3 years. And every time that I think I'm going to sit down with Beloved, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready.
This will be my first time reading it next month with Reggie. So
so it's like, with these types of narratives, you got to be ready for them. Shout out to, again, one of my brothers, Khalik Allah. This is his second documentary. This is my Aunt Hope. She's the one who has read the Bible so many times.
Yes.
She used to be a model. That's my Aunt Hope, Hazel. And these are just books that I've read, and then we got just other stuff down here, some different black buck hats, got some helmets, got some other joints. So that's the I don't drink, actually. That's why this is still here. This is for whenever guests come or the few guests I get now, of course, because of COVID.
I used a video where you mentioned that bottle up there to learn how to say your name properly.
Really?
You were with a white man, and I think he asked about it or something, and you were like, somebody gave this to me. It's just, yeah. So I'll show you something funny that on my shelf that we have in common. I got my shelf set up, but as you can see, I got the time joints right there.
Hey,
that is Kobe's, and I believe Lewis are the ones I have back here. What else? It was something else. Boom. Right?
There we go. Oh, we got the 2 joints. That How to Make a Slave. Hold on. If He Hollers, Let Him Go. Homegoing.
They go to Edward P. Jones.
Oh, you
Yeah.
got that Call Baby? I
Yes,
can't wait to
there.
read Call Baby.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Tell them
Morgan.
stop playing with me. And as you can see, I got joints way back there. I got buku.
Hold up, but you got the little pop. You got the toys too.
Oh, stop playing with my pop game now. Look at
Come
these. Look at the
on.
essential worker joints.
Come on, yo.
Yeah. Then you
What
got.
else you got? You
I know
got
you.
cups or anything on there?
I
What do
know
you got?
you
You got
appreciate that.
hell yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. Shout out
I
to
got
Morgan.
Killmonger back there.
Wow.
My granddaddy is chilling on top of Prince. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know you were into this. You're into the
Yeah, man.
collectibles.
Yeah. And I'll show people something else funny, and I'll stop because my wife's gonna be like, "I told you, you always want to show and tell."
Yeah,
But
you got a throne that you're sitting on.
people are asking like, where do I put all my books? Like, son, I got books here. I got books here. Like, it's books behind all my vinyls.
So let me ask, right? You got Black Futures there. What if any is the significance of having Black Futures showing out like that?
I just feel like the things that are inside there are some of the things that people and that musicians have been trying to tell us about for so long. And so I
Mm.
always have that kind of there to like, like if you're interested in that, then you should really like look at the realities that they were trying to show. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
word, word.
And I got joints over here. You know what I'm saying? Same deal.
Yup. Okay. You got that
Listen,
drown. Yup.
Ryan Holiday, man, on Stoicism is that guy. Ego is
Someone
the
hit me
enemy.
up.
Stillness is the key. The obstacle is the way. I'm telling you, son.
Yo, someone hit me up about Ryan Holiday yesterday. I got a newsletter, and I put out my newsletter once a month. And for those who don't know, my newsletter is where I expound on things that I only touch on in social media or even not at all. It's a more intimate space where I make
Okay.
myself a little bit more vulnerable. Um, and someone emailed me yesterday saying, what are your thoughts on Ryan Holiday's philosophy? And I haven't gotten back to them yet. You know, people who know me, you hit me up. As long as, again, you're not on some clown shit, I will respond.
Yeah.
Could take a minute. But I didn't know who Ryan Holiday was, and I haven't looked into him yet. But that's that joint. What are your thoughts?
I mess with Ryan Holiday, man. Like the way that the types of things that I've been able to like create and do literally like kind of come out of these ideas that he took from Marcus Aurelius.
I wanted to read.
hmm
I wanted to
hmm
read it.
The
His joint,
meditations.
Stoics.
I
Yeah.
believe it's called the meditations. Um,
Meditations. Yep.
man, it's just so dope. It's like just work, which we know that there things that get in the way of just work and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
meritocracy. But there's just this beautiful concept because Ryan kind of uses it to knock out these novels. He's like churning them out, and he's just like, the Stoics would just be like, one little bit every day. Like he's killing it, son.
So that
And
joint right there, you recommend that? What is it? Stillness.
you got stillness is the key, ego is the enemy, and the obstacle is the way.
Which one
Um,
do you prefer? Which one do you suggest I start with?
ah, well, you got ego is the enemy. I think it's the first one, and it's what I started with. But I loved the obstacle is the way.
All
I
right. Word.
love the obstacle is the way. Stillness is the
Yeah.
key was kind of like, I mean, it's still good, but
Yeah. It didn't hit like
um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, but man, ego is the enemy and the obstacle is the way. Oh my God, dog. Like,
I
yeah,
gotta
man.
peep it. I gotta peep it.
I don't know if I showed you some of these. You got the Octavia, Derek
Hmm.
Bell, the Spook Who Sat by the Door, which I was talking about. I want to do the Spook Who Sat by the Door, the Paul Beatty joint, and Reggie told me I need to do Maurice Ruffin's book, and
Yeah, we cast a shout out.
then rewrite my review on Black Book, like in
Yeah,
like
word.
this super cool, revisionist review piece that I think would
Yeah.
be hella dope. But yeah, man, yeah, man. We did
Hell yeah.
the books cribs, man.
I love that, yo. Hopefully
Yeah.
people enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they were turned up in the comments, man. Turned up in the comments. Well, I think I've held you long enough, man. I
Thank you, brother.
appreciate all the love and support that you've been giving me all week and before
Got you.
this week, and that you continue to give. And I appreciate the hell out of Black Buck and what you're doing in terms of being a writer and a force at such a young age. Like,
Mm.
there's so much work that I know you're gonna do that's gonna
I
be
hope so.
just I'm back.
Yeah,
Guys, can y'all see me again?
I can see you.
Oh my God. I'm whooping my auntie tail for calling me during this
Oh,
live.
that's what happened? I
Yeah.
thought it was me. I thought it was me. Could you, so you couldn't hear me?
No, I couldn't hear anything, man. I
It's
was
all
just
good, bro. I was just saying, man, like, thank you, not just for the work you do on Bookstagram, but what you do for our future generations. I can't wait to see different and other types of your own work,
yeah,
your own writing. And it's just, it's an honor, man. I'm looking forward to us growing together, as just homies in this space and outside of this space, just in life.
absolutely, man. I appreciate the hell out of that comment, man. And
Hell yeah.
yeah, man, this was the last one, and it was just as fulfilling, dog. So I appreciate it, man. And I appreciate everybody that's been rocking with me all week. Thank you for the continuous love, for the gifts and the support. We're gonna be doing some. I'm gonna do something next month. It won't be week long, but I'll do something, man. And we're gonna keep this thing rocking and rolling. Be sure to follow Books Are Pop Culture.
Mm.
That's what me and my brother Reggie is working on too. Yo, Print It Not Press, the shirts are coming. Be on the
Let's
lookout for the
go.
shirts. Be on the lookout for the shirts. And again, man, I appreciate the love. I appreciate each and every author that showed up. All right.
All right, brother. Happy belated, man. Enjoy that cigar.
Thank you. Thank you. Peace.
All right, peace.